Welcome to the first part of Minnesota Gambling Control Board's Lawful Purpose Expenditure Review. In this video, we will be describing what lawful purpose expenditures are and the first 5 categories of lawful purpose expenditures. All expenditures from your gambling account must either qualify as a lawful purpose expenditure or an allowable expense. Lawful purpose expenditures are generally considered charitable contributions, but also include payment categories such as real estate taxes and taxes imposed on gambling receipts. A detailed description of each lawful purpose expenditure is included in Chapter 13 of the Gambling Manual. Allowable expenses are the costs that are incurred for your organization to be able to conduct gambling. Examples include cost of gambling product, accounting costs, and rent paid to premises. Whether your organization is paying an allowable expense or a lawful purpose expenditure, you are required to maintain documentation that proves the expenditure qualifies. This could include a receipt or an invoice for products purchased or services rendered. Also, ensure that you maintain documentation that your membership has approved each expenditure prior to payment. If proper documentation and approvals are not maintained by your organization, you will be required to reimburse your gambling account from a source of non-gambling. Depending on the situation, your organization could also face possible sanctions. Therefore, it's best to do the right thing in the beginning and get your membership approval for all expenditures and maintain proper documentation. Currently, there are 26 different lawful purpose codes that are approved by Minnesota Statute 349.12, Subdivision 25. Each of these expenditures will be reported on the LG 100C. The first lawful purpose code is a contribution to a 501c3 or 501c4 festival organization. This category allows your organization to make donations to nonprofit organizations that have a 501c3 or 501c4 festival classification. These classifications are provided by the IRS, and the organization should be able to prove their classification to you by providing you an IRS determination letter. One thing to remember is that not all 501c4 organizations are a festival organization. A festival organization is an organization whose primary purpose is of conducting a festival, such as an annual Friendship Days. An organization such as a softball team may have a 501c4 classification, but their primary purpose is of conducting softball and not of hosting a festival. Therefore, they would not qualify for a donation under the Category 1 of lawful purpose expenditures. It is also important to note that contributions to a 501c3 or 501c4 festival organization are only allowed if the receiving organization does not exist for the primary purpose of receiving and distributing gambling profits. They do not have more than 49% of its membership in common with the giving organization. And they do not have an officer, director, or person in a managerial position that is also an officer, director, or person in a managerial position in the giving organization. Your organization may also use Code 1 for contributions to support your primary purpose, as long as your organization is classified a 501c3 or 501c4 festival organization. If you meet this requirement, you will have 2 options to support your primary purpose. The first option is to transfer funds directly to your general account. To qualify for this option, your organization must spend 30% or less of your general fund on fundraising and management costs. To determine if your organization meets the 70-30 standard, You will want to look at the most 2 recent fiscal years' financial information from your general account, such as Form 990. Once you have determined if you meet this standard, it is recommended that you keep this calculation with your GCB reports in case you are asked to provide records to verify that you met the requirement. Another option you have to support your primary purpose is if you are a 501c3 or 501c4 festival organization. You may pay expenditures directly from your gambling account to a vendor or recipient if that expenditure is for your primary purpose. For example, a hockey organization could directly pay for expenditures such as coaches, ice time, equipment, and possibly buses, as long as they are a 501c3 or 501c4 festival organization, and the expenditure directly supports their primary purpose. In this situation, you are not required to meet the 70-30 standard. The second lawful purpose code allows your organization to make contributions to relieve the effects of poverty, homelessness, or disability. Common examples of expenditures that are included in this category could include a house fire which destroyed a family's home. Funds could be used to help them purchase clothes and give them a place to shelter, such as an apartment. This category could also include an individual who became disabled and needs assistance in getting a ramp built so they can get their wheelchair in and out of their home. Also, an expenditure in this category could include an individual who is involved in a major car accident and the medical bills are exceeding the amount that the insurance would pay. For these expenditures, you may pay an individual or family directly, a vendor for their services, or a nonprofit corporation that exists exclusively for these relief purposes. You may not pay another organizations like a Lions Club to do a joint project. Also, this category includes the only exception of receiving prior membership approval before making expenditures. In this case, you may make expenditures prior to membership approval to relieve the effects of a disaster. It is a best practice to continue to receive prior membership approval for these expenditures if possible. The third lawful purpose expenditure code allows your organization to pay for the treatment of gambling problems. You may do a general donation to a treatment program or pay the cost of a treatment for a specific individual. All contributions under Category 3 must be made directly to the vendor. Payments to an individual are not allowed. The fourth lawful purpose expenditure code allows your organization to provide contributions to public or private nonprofit educational institutions that are registered with or accredited by the state of Minnesota or any other state. You may make the expenditure directly to the educational institution or to a vendor for the purchase of goods or services benefiting the educational institution. If your donation is going to a public school, an LG 555 must be completed and kept in your organization's records for 3.5 years. The LG 555 Government Approval or Acknowledgement for Use of Gambling Funds is a form that is required when making contributions to a unit of government, including educational institutions, programs approved by the DNR, and surface water quality testings with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. When making a donation that requires this form, your organization will fill out items 1 through 3 and then have your CEO sign and date the form. The agency receiving the funds will complete the government approval/acknowledgement section. It is important that you receive the completed LG 555 prior to making the donation. This form will then be maintained in your gambling records for 3.5 years. Code 5 of Lawful Purpose Expenditures allows your organization to give scholarships to individuals to help with the cost of education. You may provide these funds to a nonprofit organization whose mission is to award scholarships, or you may create your own scholarship criteria and grant these to either an individual or a school on behalf of an individual. If you choose to award your own scholarships, you must maintain a selection process that is open and fair. Your criterion must not discriminate based off of race, gender, religion, national origin, marital status, disability, age, or be limited to your organization's members or immediate family members. The selection criteria of your scholarship should be communicated to all participants as well as your organization's members. Your criterion is allowed to provide limits on the individuals that are eligible to apply, such as those in specific geographical areas or school districts. Once you have selected the scholarship winners, you should communicate the winners to the public as well as your organization's members. Once again, scholarship payments are allowed to be made directly to the individual, the school, or a combination of the individual and school.